Are we there? Hi,
I know.
Andrea.
Hi, Denise. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine. Testing, testing. We're
Awesome.
working.
We're working.
Yeah.
I didn't
Well,
even
this
get
is
to get back
exciting.
to my, I know, I didn't even get to get back to my office. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm running out of time.
Anyway, this is a very nice experience for both of us, I think, especially having a discussion about the changes in America today.
Absolutely. And
Um,
in the current climate at that.
yes, yes, exactly, exactly. I think for me, I always share from the perspective, and I think you know this about me because we've known each other for a little while.
I know.
Yeah, well, yeah. Back in the day, I was telling Jacqueline in my office this morning, I said, it's really interesting because I've been doing this since chintz sofas were in style. And she was like, well, what is chintz sofas? And I had
Oh
to inform
gosh.
her that she had to look it up and see what it was.
Yeah, that's
So,
when we date ourselves. It's like, yeah, because I know I met you what 20 years ago at
mm-hmm,
least.
mm-hmm, yeah, yeah,
And you
it's
were and you were working a few years before then, just a few, right?
yeah, just lovely. Yeah. Anyway, I think, I mean, in opening up the discussion as far as things are concerned, I think for me, especially, I'm an island girl, being born
Mhm.
in Trinidad and being raised in the Virgin Islands. I mean, a lot of what I've been experiencing or I've been open up to is something that I never really imagined.
Okay.
It's it's kind of like for whom the bell tolls at this point in life. But it's good that we're able to discuss it and heal it and try to see what we can do to overcome some of the challenges as well, and to be noticed.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's sad to say that in 2020, we are having to deal with this.
Correct.
And, sometimes you forget because depending on, again, your perspective, it's not something that you deal with daily. And then
Correct.
when it slaps you in the face, you're like, oh yeah, there's a
Yeah, that
reminder.
does exist. That does
Yes,
exist.
absolutely.
I don't know. I had a recent experience, quite recent,
Okay.
since everything has been going on, and I've shared it with a few people. And actually, when I had the experience, it kind of slapped me the same way. I have a very diverse clientele base, and recently we were doing a photo shoot with one of my clients that we've just wrapped up things with, and while we were at her home, my client said something to me because I went with a photographer in the beginning, and
Okay.
then I decided that I wanted to reshoot the entire project.
Okay.
And when I got to her home, she was busy. She was doing her thing. She's really a very nice client of mine. And she said to me, she says, I wasn't going to tell you this. And I said, oh, okay, what's going on? She says, you know, the last photographer that you had here? I said, yeah. She says, well, let me tell you what happened. And I couldn't imagine what she was going to tell me. So,
Exactly.
so my client she's white.
Okay.
And so she says to me, she says, um, the last photographer you had here, you hadn't gotten here yet. And he rang the doorbell. And when I opened the door, he said to me, do you live here? And she said, yeah, why? And he turned around and he said, well, isn't Dennese Rojas Black?
Wow. Now, was he white
He was.
or black?
He was white.
Hmm.
And so she was very thrown for a loop from that perspective. And so she says, I was just so pissed off. I was just so angry
Yeah.
over the whole thing. So that was something that when she shared that with me, it was something that I've kept, and we've all talked about it. And I have shared it very openly because it was very surprising that this had taken place. So in today's
Absolutely.
environment, especially, I mean, he's an older photographer.
Okay. Well, and I think that's one of the challenges that we see as designers of color, that people think Black designers design Black spaces,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and that's it.
Yeah.
And, I know I've had clients in the past, the same with you, diverse clients, and they will say, oh, my friend was shocked that I had a Black designer. It was like the unicorn. Like, what? Wait, a Black person did this? Really? Wow.
Yeah.
And it's surprising.
It is. I mean, years ago when I first started, we used to have in the DC area, we used to have a show. Well, it was a home show. It was called the Design for Living show, and
Okay.
a bunch of my friends.
Oh yeah,
yeah, we
I
used to
remember
participate.
that.
We used to participate in that show very often because the draw-in for the customers were the design rooms that each designer did, and it kind of grew with much of us being friendly, and with that happening, I remember someone coming up to me at my space and said, "Did you do this?" And it was like, "Yeah, no, I hired someone to do this for me." No, but
Exactly.
it was that kind of a response, and as I say, growing up in the islands, I was not really exposed to what I experience here. It's a whole different environment. Yeah. Like I was telling one of my clients yesterday, growing up, I knew nothing about parents or moms or dads telling or teaching their children about putting their hands on a steering wheel. Knew nothing about that until everything was becoming more apparent to me as far as hearing this stuff happening. I knew nothing about that. So
wow.
I was in my own little bubble.
Wow. Wow. And it's funny because, I have daughters, and, my daughter plays sports and she often puts her hoodie on. And for the last probably 2 years, I've been very adamant about, no, you're not going to walk around with the hood on, like take your hood off. And her lacrosse teammate, so, she's the only brown girl out there. It's just this, oh, Mom, oh my God, why are you making a big deal? And unfortunately, that is the climate that we live in now.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because, obviously everything has been on high alert, and I appreciate the design community, especially a lot of the high profile magazines that are trying to give us notice. It's wonderful and it's overdue. What I hope is that it continues to happen and it doesn't become the 15 minutes of Black Lives Matter is over, and we'll get back to the norm. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I want to say it's kind of like my client yesterday shared with me. She says it's like how they have the flavor of the month. So hopefully it'll become a flavor of the month, and it continues to be dealt with and healed. Absolutely. And it's a little different. I mean, and even for me, it's sometimes shocking because I don't experience it. Years ago, when I had a retail store, I experienced it then too. There was a young lady
in Rockville.
Yes. She used to bring leads to designers, and you paid her for a service for leads, and she would send you out. And she had a situation. Well, I had a situation that she'd sent me out to meet with a man who was a bachelor in Alexandria. And when I got there, one of my assistants was with me, and she was white. And we got there, and as he opened the door, there was a loud, there was a syndicated show that was on. I wouldn't mention it at this point. And we never heard from that guy again. She says, he's not going to hire you, don't you? I said, yeah. Wow. That was before people really did their research to find out who was coming to their house.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And you're right. It's such a different time now. I mean, you and I both remember when there was no HGTV, there was no Houzz, there was no Pinterest. All of these resources that clients use, Instagram, all the time to find their designer or look at your work, didn't exist. So I feel like they often were surprised when you walked to the door.
Of course. Yeah, they were. I mean, and that's one of the reasons too, for me, that I stayed away from a lot of organizations, because for me to invest in that and to get leads from the organizations and show up at people's homes, and they weren't ready to embrace that. I mean, when you hire a designer, it's a very intimate relationship. You kind of have to, they have to learn how you live, what you like, what you don't like, that sort of a situation. So with that being said, I mean, it's kind of like I would say to my friends, you clean your house before the housekeeper comes. You kind of, it's that kind of a situation. So
Absolutely.
it's important that the whole gelling of the environment works with not only them and you, but just everything within itself.
Yeah. And speaking of organizations, it's always been interesting to me when you think about, you know, the DC market, you know, Maryland, DC, Northern Virginia, even going north to Baltimore towards where I am. And you don't see us often in those events and in those networking, you know, opportunities. And why do you think that is?
I don't know. I think it all depends on, you know, who it is.
Oh, by the way, I did cocktail.
Cheers, I have water. I think it's us getting more out there. It does exist. It's just a matter of being more assertive in what's going on in the environment and what's around you. I mean, even, you know, I do a lot of work on the construction side, and I see it from that perspective as well, where, you know, people are doing and saying things. Sometimes I'm floored over the things that I'm told. But it's really to get involved and get, you know, more of the magazines and more of the people that are doing things to get us involved.
Absolutely.
To reach out to us as well. Because we don't, some designers don't know that they're there.
Yeah. And some designers are, you know, I think both of us in regards to, you know, 30 years, 20 years, and we know each other, but there definitely are people that could be like, oh, I've never talked to that person. I've never heard of that person. And I think what's important is tying in about the magazine, and the magazines and putting us out there are being diverse in your selections too. You know, not thinking like, okay, I have the one Black male designer, I have the one Black female designer, I'm good. I'll showcase their work every couple of months and I check off my quota.
Correct. It's using more of us. There's a lot of designers of color out there. There are many. And in the years I've been doing this, I meet people, I try to engage them. I think that me sharing the path that I've traveled is helpful to the young designer today. I used to get, oh, I've never met a Black interior designer before. That was always a saying that I would get all the time, a comment. But, you know, in today's environment, you know, the younger generation is becoming more aware, and they're not as hung up on it as some of the, you know, of the older designers that have had, you know, the experience out there as far as things are concerned.
Absolutely. Well, and you know, I'm more in the kitchen and bath space, and it's the same thing. I mean, I would go to KBiz, you know, 5-10 years ago, and everyone knew me by the time it was over, because it was like, oh, you know, the Black girl from Maryland, you know, she does the, you know, that girl over there. And it just, you know, that's sad because it was that limited, you know, and just like you said, speaking to students and they say, wow, you know, okay, we knew about a few designers in hospitality, maybe a few in interiors, and, you know, a handful in kitchen and bath. And it's sad because it's like, no, there are lots of us out there.
It's very true. It's very true. I think when you and I first connected, it was like, oh, look, kind of like,
yes.
So
wow.
It was that kind of a connection.
And it was like, you know, construction, and wait, you do and it's sad, but it really was that.
Yeah.
You exist too.
I mean, even with Furniture Market, it was the same thing. I mean, I've been going to Furniture Market for like 20 years. And when I first started, it was like finding a unicorn. And I would share, and I've shared this with some of my other friends that are designers. I remember when I first started, there were showrooms that I went into, and the only minorities that I saw were in the kitchen. And I was very hurt to even let them serve me. I couldn't deal with that. So, and you would see them roaming around town and just, you know, touching base with them or saying hello. You know, you'd see them and you became friendly with them. So, so it's much different, of course, today.
Yes,
thank God. And people are more involved. So it's good. But when I took my little break and then I got back into the swing of things is when I saw, oh, there's more of us out there. It wasn't a novel idea to see running the streets. I see we have some questions. I have no idea how to open that.
Oh, do we?
We have two questions.
Okay, I pulled it up. Hi, Jessica Luna. So Jessica Luna says, have you guys ever seen other races discriminated against? I grew up in the South and have witnessed a lot of racism in my short time.
I haven't. I guess we can, it says answer live.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. So answer live. Okay, so it's interesting. I grew up in California and then in high school moved to North Carolina. And I never once, I'm about to share with y'all some personal stuff. Y'all ready? Okay.
All right.
So when I was in California, I had Black friends, white friends, Asian friends. I mean, I grew up in Los Angeles County, wasn't a big deal. Moved to North Carolina. My parents, my dad's job transferred, and we were in a small town. And it was the first time where first of all, it was like, you talk funny, you know, you're not Black enough, but then the white people didn't want to be my friend either. It was this weird
place that you were in.
A really weird space. And, you know, luckily I had a good amount of self-confidence and just kind of worked through it. I mean, you know, the teenage angst, but I've always remembered that. But I think that that's one of the reasons why I am sensitive to, you know, wanting to make sure that I had diverse clients, wanting to make sure that I also was able to represent my Blackness to not only my Caucasian clients, but my clients of all races, and also show Black students, young girls that were out there, just to kind of pull it full circle. But definitely the South, I felt a lot more than when I moved to the DC metro area.
Wow. Wow. I think for me, I mean, I've never really experienced it other than living in the USA. Just growing up in the islands, there wasn't that dynamic. My high school class only had like 60 students. We all knew each other. We are like family, and my class was very diverse. So I wasn't pushed into that where it was a color generated situation. It was just, let's love. I mean, I just saw everybody last year and we were all loving on each other. So it's really a nice feeling. And I wish America would embrace things from that perspective. Yeah. It's very warm.
Now, did you move to DC directly from the island, or did you live anywhere else?
I went to design school in Miami, and then I moved to New York, and I experienced it there. I tried to rent an apartment, and it was available until I showed up. Wow. So, and then I lived in California for a year, and then I moved here. So, so I've been here the longest, besides the Virgin Islands. Yeah. Gotcha. All right. So we have two more questions.
We have two more.
Three.
Three. Oh, you know, okay. So I apologize in advance if I say your name wrong. Bakasha. Okay. Question 1 and 2, I'm going to tie them together. With all kinds of differences we face in our day-to-day lives, what is your motto to keep going and doing what you are so good at? And then her second question is how to keep motivated and ignore all kinds of negativity we face in this design competitive world. Great questions.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you read the questions because I have to put on my glasses to see.
Okay. And I just have to do this. Okay. So you can start with that one since I did the last.
That's fine. How I stay motivated. I mean, I ignore the noise to a certain degree. I speak about things that I experience that's really, you know, heart-wrenching. My team here knows how emotionally I get when things are disruptive from that perspective, and my shock syndrome behind it. But my staff and my team that my team that I have here that I truly love and adore. I mean, they help me stay balanced. We continue to drive forward, and we keep things moving. And I carry the same persona with the team that I have with my clients. I mean, it's a diversity thing that's really important to me.
Okay. I think that's great. I love that you said that, because not only are we dealing with racial challenges, but we're dealing with COVID, and that has completely
changed
affected everyone's businesses and how they handle business. And I really think it's important to be honest about what's going on. And I think that that's how you deal with it too. You know, you protect your space and you adjust and you pivot when necessary. And I mean, to keep motivated, that's the big thing. I mean, you can't get stuck. I feel like the one thing I love about our industry is that every day is different.
Oh God, yes.
And,
it is.
You know, yesterday I spent numerous hours at a client's trying to just kind of keep them together. And some days you have to do that. Some days you have to go into, okay, you know, you're hustling, you're running all over the place. So I just really think you just have to take every day by day, and just keep pushing forward. So great questions.
Yeah.
All right. So this is another attendee. It says, how to handle being judged for your color in front of clients when they are the ones judging you.
Oh, I've never had that.
I haven't either. So I hope that the clients of whichever race that hire me and hire us, you know, are ones that are open to.
They must be to let you in the house.
Yeah, I hope so. Now, I have had a situation where I went to the design center. I'm not going to say where I was, but they were talking to my client, just all talking to my client, and would not, I mean, just, they totally ignored me. And then my client was like, oh, so my designer actually, like, I'm waiting for her. I think she's been trying to find somebody to help. And then they were like, oh, so it was almost like the photography situation. It was one of those, like, you know that you could get a white designer, right?
Yeah, that's interesting. We are talented. You know,
Yes.
We're not marked by, you know, the footprint that we carry.
Yes.
All right. It seems like we're wrapping up. We have like about
We
5
are.
minutes. Are there any more questions?
I don't see anything else at this moment. I'm going to ask you a question. Can you hear me still?
I can hear you fine.
Okay, perfect. What do you hope happens from a design standpoint, from a, you know, opportunities, whether it's magazines, whether it's, you know, just any kind of opportunity? What do you hope to achieve out of this whole scenario that we're in right now?
You mean the double duo with the COVID and the diversity?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I'm hoping that people will, I think everybody from America needs to move to the Virgin Islands.
I would love to be on an island right now. Let me tell you.
So that they will learn that it's to really love and get along. When you cut your hand, blood comes out of there. It doesn't come out in a different color. It comes out red. And it's to really, you know, enjoy each other. So that, I think that's really, really important. And people to take a little bit more notice and give everybody an opportunity. That's also really important.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So what do you hope?
You know, just like you, I hope that we get to the other side of this, and that there is more, not only inclusion, but just understanding, you know, whether or not you agree, because people aren't going to always agree, but understanding and knowing that, each person has their own, you know, their own experiences and opinions, and to be supportive of that. And then from a design standpoint, you know, I agree with you. I mean, again, I love that the Wall Street Journal, for example, they did the spread on Black designers. That's wonderful. I hope that continues. I hope that, you know, instead of having where there's one every couple of months, that they look at their magazine, they look at their spread, and they say, okay, you know what, let's make sure this is a diverse audience. And that's not just Black designers. I mean, a diverse audience. There are some magazines that I open up and it's like, oh, that person again. You know, there are
Yep.
so many designers out there that if every publication actually looked outside of their usuals, they would
will
really
find some jewels.
They will find some jewels. Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's really important. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this has been wonderful. I know I see you online.
You too. I know we are supposed to do our in-person cocktails and COVID stopped that. So we'll have to coordinate that. It looks like we have like 2 minutes and one more question popped up. Do we have time, Zoe?
Yes.
For the one more question?
Yep.
It said, any advice to young minority designers out there?
Yes. Internship. Get some internships. That's so important. It takes you to the next level. You can say, I've done this. I've learned. I get so many people that apply and they don't have that kind of experience. And while you're in school, if you're in school, that's what you should do. Or, you know, volunteer or start off somewhere and show what your capabilities are. You'd be amazed. You don't have to get paid to do everything.
Yep. I agree 100%. I actually went to a small school and I did not have an internship opportunity. And so I know with, you know, our firm, I have had an intern every year because it's really important to me as well. So I definitely agree with that. So yes, intern and put yourself out there.
Yep.
Reach out, ask questions.
Right way. The right way.
Good point. Good point.
Thank you.
Thanks, Zoe.
Thank you two so much. This was absolutely phenomenal. I'm so appreciative of you two for joining us today. And thank you to all of our attendees. So we have another chat coming up in a few minutes, all about taking the fear out of taxes, which is a great one. So, link will be in our chat and we will see you all there. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.